WrestleMania 2 Electric Boogaloo. They say that sequels always have a hard time living up to their predecessor. Let's just say I wouldn't want to be my son. And while Mania 1 wasn't exactly a classic of in-ring work, it was a damn novel show. In trying to up the ante and recreate the novelty, Mania 2 would emanate from 3 different arenas in Rosemont, LA, and New York, make Mr. T and Roddy Piper box in a terrible match, and put NFL players in a battle royal. The show wasn't great, but it's so mad it's worth seeing, and here are a few things you might not know about the difficult second Mania. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about WrestleMania 2. Number 10, it's the only WrestleMania held on a Monday. That's weird. Here's how watching pay-per-views as a kid works. In the US, you stay up on Sunday as a special treat, and then you talk about the pay-per-view at school the next day. And in the UK, you taped it, brave through school, telling everyone that if they told you the results, you'd f***ing cut them, and then go home and watch it for yourself. For some reason, for one Mania only, they mess with that formula by holding Mania 2 on a Monday. It's a school day, you monsters. Number 9, Jake Roberts didn't debut until 3 weeks before. Like Ricky Steamboat the year before, WWE had no qualms about using WrestleMania to introduce the world to a brand new star, this time Jake the Snake Roberts. While Jake would go on to make quick work of George Wells at Mania 2, he hadn't wrestled his first WWE match prior to March 2nd earlier that month. Roberts' first match wasn't actually broadcast until Saturday, March 22nd, a mere 16 days before his WrestleMania match, a tiny amount of time to equate Roberts with the WWE Universe. Number 8, Roddy Piper had to have his hands taped. 1 year after WrestleMania 1, Piper was still pitying fools, and by pitying I mean hating, and by fools I mean Mr. Lawrence T. After concerns that Piper would shoot on the TV star at Mania 1, there was reason to believe that Piper, a legit amateur boxer in his youth, might uncork a nice bottle of stiff on Master T in their boxing match and embarrass him in front of the whole world. Ordinarily, a boxer's hand is taped while open. In Piper's case, the officials had him make fists and then wrap them with athletic tape. The apparent idea was that once Piper slid his hands into the gloves, he couldn't reach the end of them with his closed hands, and his punches would be less damaging, like putting a muzzle on an angry Scottish kilt-wearing dog. Number 7, Piper left for 4 months following WrestleMania 2. So Piper has a weird boxing match that resembles 2 scarecrows trying to hug it out in high winds. The next day, Piper went ghost, disappearing from WWE until early August, at which time he returned as a conquering babyface hero. Piper's 2016 biography, Rowdy, claimed that it was his first real breakaway from wrestling since 1973, having spent the near entirety of his adult life as a working have-boots, will-travel wrestler. The need to recharge his batteries only enhanced Piper's value, as his August return demonstrated the fans' willingness to accept Hot Rod as a babyface megastar. Number 6, Ricky Steamboat was originally supposed to face Bret Hart. Now that sounds like the sugar daddy likes. Hart had been struggling to get noticed in a crowded WWF locker room. He wasn't a behemoth heavyweight, nor did the Hitman possess spellbinding charisma. Still, he was told in February 1986 that he would be working with the transcendent Steamboat come the pay-per-view, and Hart viewed it as a golden opportunity to show how great he could really be. Weeks later, Hart found out that plans had changed, and Steamboat would instead face Hercules Hernandez. That's Hercules? Oh dear. Instead, Hart would work the Chicago portion of the show in a battle royal of all things, with NFL players of all things. Hart was crushed, but there was a silver lining. He and Steamboat did get to work together just a few weeks before Mania at the Boston Garden instead, and it was a predictably great match. Number 5, it featured Bruno Sammartino's only pay-per-view match. The living legend was all but retired by the early 80s, so him wrestling on any pay-per-view was a bonus for his already illustrious career. Not that a battle royal appearance really compared to his lengthy WWF World Championship reigns, but it's good that the ultra draw got to lace up his boots on at least one pay-per-view. Still in quality shape at the age of 50, he made 2 eliminations, tossing out defensive tackle Ernie Holmes and fellow former world champion, the Iron Sheik. Number 4, Jimmy Snuka was once considered as Hulk Hogan's opponent. This is a potentially tall tale, but it's never really been disproven either. The recently departed Superfly, who had worked Hogan's corner at the inaugural WrestleMania, claimed years later that shortly after the event, Vince McMahon quietly pitched an idea where Snuka would turn heel on the Hulkster, perhaps not until early in 1986, and work with him for the championship at WrestleMania 2. The story goes that Hogan declined the match, claiming he had no desire to work with a crazy maniac like Snuka. Number 3, Jesse Ventura left the company following the show. In an attempt to garner better living wages and benefits in the wrestling world, Ventura had quietly spoken to his peers about the idea of unionizing. As Ventura would tell it, there was plenty of support for the idea until word got to McMahon himself, then oh f***ing Christ. Many job-scared wrestlers scurried away from a potential union, and Ventura reached loggerheads with McMahon, it wouldn't be the only time, and temporarily exited WWF following Mania 2. Ventura then joined the Screen Actors Guild, which provided him with the health and retirement benefits that he wanted, and the body returned to Vince's Grapple Orchard later that year. Number 2, an injured Bobby Heenan would have been fired if he'd missed the show. The Brain, aka the greatest manager of all time, had dealt with serious neck issues since injuring himself in the ring earlier in the 80s. In spite of the pain, Heenan would still gamely bump around at will for whatever babyface he'd sabotaged, and it only exacerbated his injuries. In the days before WrestleMania 2, Heenan had an MRI done in Tampa where 2 fractured vertebrae were discovered. He badly needed surgery, and the night before WrestleMania, while hospitalized, Heenan was contacted by the office, who told him if he missed his scheduled appearance in Los Angeles, he'd be fired. Heenan checked himself out, flew to LA, bumped for Hogan after the steel cage match, caught an early morning flight back to Tampa, and returned to the same hospital. You utter legend. And number 1, it's the only traditional steel cage match in WrestleMania history. That is hard to believe. Steel cage matches have been a staple of WWE and wrestling in general for decades, the ideal blow-off match. Yet at WrestleMania, there have only been 4 cage-based matches to date. 3 of them have been Hell in a Cell matches, pitting The Undertaker against someone vaguely corporate. Hogan vs. Bundy marked the only appearance of the standard cage format at a WrestleMania. Given WWE's preference to have cage matches end with some form of escape, it's certainly possible that the company preferred to have major feuds blown off with a pinfall or submission on the big stage, rendering their uses of cages moo. You know, like a cow's opinion. Doesn't matter. It's moo. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.